All right, I'm hoping people are getting in. If you are joining us, welcome. We're so excited you're here. Hopefully, Melissa, do we have most people already in, it looks like?
Yes, it looks like we've got most people connected, so we can go ahead and get started.
Fantastic. Well, welcome. If you haven't yet, please complete our pre-test survey. We'll put that in the link down here on the chat box. You can go ahead and turn your microphone off. Your camera is optional. It's totally up to you. And then as we go through this, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. That's where we'll be looking to answer those questions. We do have a wonderful panel of current Wisconsin School of Business students here with us today and lots of questions, so we are going to jump right in. So if I could have the panelists, please tell us your name, your pronouns, the major or the job that you thought you wanted when you first started at the business school, and maybe what your current major or career path is. Let's go ahead and start with Ben.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ben Wondakowski. I'm a senior here, he, him. I started out in college knowing I wanted to do finance, but I ended up kind of tacking on a real estate major. So I'm currently a finance and real estate double. So I kind of stayed along the path, but add a little bit more to it, I suppose.
All right, why don't we hear from Lauren?
Hi guys, I'm Lauren, she, her, hers, and I came in kind of wanting to do consulting, thinking finance or something along that route, and I'm now doing accounting.
And Grace?
Hi everyone, my name is Grace. I use she, her, and hers. I came in, I thought I wanted to be the CMO of Target, and that was quickly changed, and now I study information systems and management, and I really want to pursue a career in the telehealth sector of the tech industry.
Fantastic. And what about John?
Hey everyone, I'm John Park, he, him, is, and when I first came here, I wanted to do finance, but currently I'm studying management, human resources, and international business.
Great. And Olivia?
Hi everyone, I'm Olivia. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and when I came to college, I was actually a pre-nursing student. Then I switched to pre-business, and now I'm doing marketing, management and human resources, and then digital studies and Spanish certificates. And I want to do something in either retail or sports marketing, hopefully social media, digital marketing.
Very cool. And Nicole?
Hi, I'm Nicole, she, her, hers. I came in wanting to be a CFO. That was my lofty goal. But currently I am a supply chain operations major and I'm looking to be a COO now.
Fantastic. So we've got a great panel. And my name is Caitlin Quillen. I'm going to be your host today. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm one of our career coaches. I'm also joined by Melissa, who is our director of the Career Engagement Studio. I'm also joined by Lindsay and Lauren, who are two of our academic advisors. We're super excited. So we're going to go right back and start with you, Nicole. I'd love to hear one myth that you frequently have heard about your major or your career that you want to debunk or confirm for everyone.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of people, when I tell them that I'm majoring in supply chain operations, think that I'm just focused on solely like a purchasing kind of aspect of a company, kind of like a single function, very much like a one-sided, I click a button, that's pretty much it. But it's so much more than that. Supply chain is really focused on like relationship building between different companies, different aspects. Supply chain kind of goes from raw material all the way to the end customer. It's super encompassing and it's really about strategy. So I think a lot of people don't know kind of that aspect of supply chain, but it's a really cool major and I really love it. And my experience at internships has been really cool as well.
Great. And what about you, Olivia?
I would say for marketing, basically it's kind of a very broad major is what people have said. And then it's also that you either have to be very creative or very analytical, but I think that's more of a myth because I especially have seen in my classes that there's a good mix of both. So you really do get like that well-rounded part of marketing within your courses here if you're a marketing major.
That's awesome. Let's jump over to John.
Yeah, a common myth that I hear a lot about international business is that you have to take a lot of foreign language, which can deter a lot of students because learning it is pretty hard. But the requirement that fulfills can also be completed by like area studies classes, which are pretty fun.
Very cool. And Grace.
Yes, so if anyone even knows what the information system major is or if it exists, the common myth is that it is just like computer science, so just hard coding skills, but it's actually less about getting the data, but instead looking at how we use data to like make strategic decisions and plans for our businesses.
Yeah, IS is so unheard of, so we're excited to hear some thoughts on that. And Ben, talk to us about finance and real estate myths.
I'll take one for each. So I think one of the myths for finance is that you're going to be in a spreadsheet, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's not quite true. Like, don't get me wrong, you'll be in a spreadsheet, but a lot of times what I see is you're the ones that understand like the financial framework behind it. So you're using that to convey that to people that may not understand it. And then I think for real estate, I would say a lot of people think like either need to know someone in the industry or like it's like all social. I've seen different spectrums of real estate where like some of it's very relationship building and some of it's very analytical. So there kind of is a whole spectrum in real estate, I would say.
Awesome. And Lauren, why don't you round us out with accounting?
Yeah, I think a big myth in accounting is obviously there's math involved, but that it's very math based, or you kind of have to be like a math genius to be good at it. And I would say that's not the case at all. All the math is pretty much elementary, like addition, subtraction, division. And it's a lot more analytics based when you're doing auditing and financial reporting.
Very cool. So one thing that you might have noticed about our panelists, we've got a nice range of different majors and definitely different career goals. We also have a couple of students that are studying one major, and then some students that have like 2 to 3 majors. I'd love to hear from Olivia and Grace. Here's the myth. In order to be a competitive candidate, I have to have 2 majors.
I can go first for that one. Oh, sorry,
Go
Grace. So that myth being like that you have to have 2 majors, I think you definitely don't have to have them. It's all about like what you're interested in. So for me, the main reasons why I am doing like double major and my 2 certificates is because, for example, digital studies and marketing pairs really well together, and I'm really interested in both of them. So it just kind of made sense for me to do it because I enjoy it. And then also I get to explore different sides of my interest with like Spanish and management as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. And I really agree with the points about your majors are just kind of things that you're passionate about. And how I see them is that they're kind of stepping stones, but they're definitely not restrictive and like telling of what you can and cannot do throughout your career. So I would go away from looking at majors as like these set career paths and, you have to be all in and know exactly what you want to do to choose these different majors, but instead just kind of go more with your interests and kind of see where that takes you.
Great. So kind of going off of that, when we're speaking of careers, here's another major to consider, or another myth to consider. I need to complete 3 internships in order to get a dream job. I'd love to hear from Lauren first, your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so I've actually only completed 1 internship, and I'm starting in the spring with like my dream company. So it's all just about sometimes if you have that passion and it's a company you're really interested in, just continuing to communicate with them. I got in touch with them freshman year and just continued speaking to them throughout. And I've only had 1 internship and I'm working for my dream company.
Very cool. Ben, do you have other thoughts on that?
You definitely don't need 3. I always say like to people, the internship for freshman year, that's just a bonus if you happen to get it. Otherwise, just get any kind of job. I would say depending on the type of finance career you want, you might need a sophomore one because that kind of helps springboard you into a good junior internship, which might lead to full time. So I'd say for like highly competitive finance careers, like investment banking, markets, you might. But I've seen wealth management and asset management, you'd be able to just get like 1 and be completely fine.
Very cool. That's awesome. So when we're thinking about careers and internships and just getting any job experience, kind of what Ben said, another myth that we hear a lot is employers only look at business-related experiences and business majors. I'd love to hear from John what you think about that.
Employers don't only look at business related experiences and majors. It certainly can help show the direct business skills you've developed, both professionally and academically. But employers really like seeing well-rounded candidates they really like seeing you be active and taking responsibility in like organizations or other communities, because it shows that you're a leader. But the main important thing is to take it into consideration for what jobs you want to do, because some jobs may require more experience in the field.
Very cool. McCole, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too.
Yeah, I would actually like to speak directly to an interview experience I had. I was getting interviewed for a position in supply chain, and I was talking about my classes and my experiences and kind of talking about all things business related and really capitalizing on the fact that I was organized and I was really fit for the job. And my interviewer just paused and she asked me, "What do you like to do for fun?" And for the next 30 minutes, we talked about my passions and my drives outside of business related things. You can definitely tie those things in there in any interview. Your business experience isn't the only thing that makes you a good candidate.
Fantastic. Kind of going along that same theme. So John, I'd love to bounce back over to you. Here's the myth we've gotten. I heard it's better to be involved with business student orgs than personal student orgs. So kind of you can continue that theme and tell us maybe some of the orgs you're in and what your interests are.
Yeah, both are really great. So the student orgs I'm in DSP, Business Fret, and the Korean American Student Association, as well as the boxing club. So the meetings are obviously a little bit different, but it really depends what you want to get out of the orgs in the end. So yeah, similar to the question before, employers really want to see well-rounded applicants. They want to see the different experiences you have and how that impacts your life and your interests. They want to see what you can bring from those into your job and into the workplace. Personal interest orgs are amazing because you can meet people that you wouldn't normally meet if you were to just stay in the business school. But business orgs are amazing because you get to meet people with similar interests and career aspirations, as well as networking. And again, the main important thing is that either way, you'll have fun and you'll make great friends who have similar interests as you.
Fantastic. So a theme that I'm starting to notice is this idea of quantity over quality. How many things should I join? How much should I do? So let's talk about this myth. I need to join as many organizations as I can to show my interest in a career. Grace, do you want to talk to us about that?
Yes, that is a huge myth, and I actually am going to switch the statement that you said. It's definitely quality over quantity. Companies don't want to see that you're a general member in a ton of organizations, but that you can't even speak to them about their missions, what you do in it, and what the org does overall. They would prefer you actually to get more involved with less organizations that you're truly passionate about, whether that be a business school org or a non-business school org, as John said. Also, personally, like through your college experience, you're more likely to gain those stronger experiences and stronger personal relationships along the way if you really focus on a couple core orgs, in my opinion.
Fantastic. So I know we've told you a lot of different things, and I think the majority of our audience is probably first or second year students. So here's a myth that I hear a lot as a career coach. If I don't know my major by the end of my freshman year, I am doomed. I'd love to hear from McCole first, your thoughts on this.
I love this question because I came in as a marketing and finance major, mostly because that is the only majors that I really knew of in kind of the business realm. But my freshman year, I took Operations 300. Honestly, I had heard from one of my senior friends that it was a boring class and that I should get out of the way like ASAP because it's part of that business core. I ended up falling in love with operations my freshman year. And after that, I kind of developed the major that I have now. I switched from finance and marketing to finance and operations. And then I discovered supply chain my sophomore year. And then actually this year, I ended up dropping my finance major to focus more on supply chain operations. So it's definitely a journey, not something that you have to have set in stone freshman year. You learn a lot through the classes that you take and through conversation with others, as well as talking to companies too. So definitely a journey.
Fantastic. Lauren, I want to hear your thoughts too, because I think you picked your major pretty recently, if I'm correct. So love to hear from you.
Yeah, so I actually kind of came in, I took accounting 100 pretty early and had an inkling that was what I wanted to do. But it certainly doesn't matter. The business school is very set up where you can get core classes out of the way while you're still figuring out what you want to do. And they can actually help you figure out what you want to do. Like you have the first two accounting classes, marketing 300, like MHR 300, and it'll give you a good taste of everything so you can kind of explore.
Fantastic. So then what should students focus on their first year of college? Ben, do you want to jump in and tell us what you focused on your first year?
Yeah, I think besides just kind of getting a handling over like the campus and like how everything functions, I think one, focus on your GPA can only, help you, can't hurt you. And then I think try to figure out like what your interests are, like really like so whether it's taking some core classes, whether that's joining a club, and if you don't like it, you can, find a different club. Just trying to peg down, what your interest area might be is kind of how I viewed it my freshman year, and having some fun along the way too.
And Olivia, do you have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Ben was saying. Just kind of making sure you have time to explore your interests kind of early on so you can start to narrow in on what you really like. My main three that I had were like academics, maintaining relationships with professors, TAs, even us as like advisors can only help you in the future. Getting involved, whether it's organizations, volunteering, work experience, and then also your health. Like college is a big change for most people. So like making sure that you're taking care of yourself like physically and mentally, obviously always a plus as well. So make sure to do that.
I love that, Olivia. I think those are such great speaking points, especially for first year students. So we have a couple of myths that are very specific to majors, and I want to jump into those. So the first one we have is, I'm interested in international business, and I heard you have to have a ton of global experience. John, you kind of hit on this earlier, but do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, for sure. One of the requirements for international business is 9 credits of like a regional studies. So you can fulfill that with foreign language, but foreign language isn't for everyone. It can get pretty difficult. So what they also offer are area studies. So those are classes that study the cultures, the different type of religions, just the different locations and the history. So that's also a great way to fulfill that. And you don't need to have a lot of experience as long as you're interested. The international business program does a really, really great job at, starting at the beginning and teaching you from there.
Fantastic. Thank you, John. Yeah, some myths we have, we're not here to debunk them. We're here to prove that they actually do have some truth to them. So thank you. Question from the audience. Talking a little bit more, Grace, I'd love to hear from you. Is computer science helpful for information systems students?
Yes. So kind of back to that original myth. So it really does depend on what your career goals are, because obviously IS can kind of shoot you in that more directly technical direction. And in that case, I would say CS classes definitely are helpful. If you're looking more to be on that like strategic, using data to make decisions side, I wouldn't say they are as applicable. The first class that you actually have to take in the IS major is a comp sci class. So I think that that's a really great way to take that, kind of see, which way you lean. I definitely leaned away from computer science and more towards the business side of IS. So definitely go through that class, see what you think. And there's also a CS certificate if you are interested in that more technical route. That's a good option too.
Thank you. We've actually gotten several questions on this next one. This one's for you, Ben. We have multiple myths. The one I'm going to throw at you is every real estate major should also pick up finance. Would love to hear your thoughts on how they go well together and how they could not go well together.
Yeah, I think that's a great myth. I'd say in short, no, you do not need the double. I think a lot of people do the double because there's not that many real estate courses you need to take in order to get the major. And when you kind of like get down to the core of real estate, it basically is finance just in different terms. So at least for me, like I see a lot of crossover where it's like, oh, I already understand this, it's just in different terms. And I think it does make you a stronger applicant because they know like quantitatively, like you can pick up things very fast. But like I know quite a few people in the business school that are just real estate majors and have successfully recruited for real estate without a finance double.
Very cool. This next question, I feel like all of you will have very specific feelings on, but we'll just take maybe one or two. Finance 300 is the most difficult required business class you will ever take. Nicole, what are your thoughts on that?
That is so funny. That is such a classic question. Honestly, I think that the class is challenging, but I think it's one of those classes where it's like a real college course. My roommate and I have very different opinions on the class. I found it really beneficial. I think that I learned how to work efficiently, and I learned time management from that class. And I learned how to deal with failure. But I think it's a super hard class, but you learn a lot from it, and you learn some really good skills.
Right. Lauren, do you have different thoughts on Finance 300?
Yeah, so I actually loved Finance 300. I'm in a very small minority, I think, of the business school that can say that, but I actually still, to this day, I'm a business school tutor for Finance 300. I think the professor, if you get LaPlante, is great at teaching it. You probably won't love him after you leave the exams, but it's a very helpful course. And I think all of the information is relevant to any career you have in business.
Very cool. Let's pop over and talk a little bit more about human resources. I know we have a couple people that are studying that. So I've heard human resources and management is not a skill to actually learn in school, and instead it's more important to gain these skills through an internship or different experience. Olivia, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can speak to it a little bit. And then also if John, because I know he's management as well, that we can kind of split this one. But I would say it is a good mix of both. Like you do get the basics through your courses, and then you get to apply everything that you've learned into an internship. So I think they both have to level each other out and like balance well. So in short, I guess you can't pick one or the other, like only do like internships and like real world experience. And you can't also just take the classes. You need to learn how to like connect them together. But John, if you have anything else too, go ahead.
Yeah, everything Liv said was great. I would also add that there are some HR courses that it depends on the actual track of HR that you're interested in. There are classes that emphasize like recruitment and retention versus like compensation and like other parts of HR like that. So courses really will teach you the basics, but internships really work on applying that to the company you're working at.
Fantastic. So here's another one that I want to hear from Grace and Nicole. Information systems and operations and technology management is too much computer science and too much tech for me.
I would love to start with this one because I could talk forever about this. So as I mentioned, the first class is through the CS school. So I'll give you that. That's a little intimidating. But what IS actually is, which I kind of alluded to earlier, is using that data and technology to kind of create strategy and identify opportunities. And the IS major really is that sweet spot between having high level technical knowledge to understand the data and what it's saying, and also being able to translate that to the business side of the organization by understanding, how businesses work, what are the needs of businesses, and kind of, you make yourself a huge asset being able to bounce back and forth between both sides of those. Also, obviously, all areas of business are becoming more and more technically advanced, and it's no longer, in my opinion, I'm a little biased about if you should have these skills, but when, because all of these things are going to start integrating into every industry and every function of businesses. So very long story short, the major is not too techy, but actually I think just techy enough and very applicable to many career paths.
I would totally want to second what Grace said. In the operations side, it is a lot about kind of those like analytic skills. Personally, I'm not very good with computers. I'm pretty much just kind of Excel, Microsoft, those kind of things. But in my role this summer as an operations intern, I wasn't too tech-based, and you learn a lot of stuff in the field as well. Like through your industry experience, you learn a lot about kind of the sort of tech that's required for your position. So not super tech based. You can get really involved through tech, but it's not a requirement.
Awesome. Thank you both. We've had a couple questions pop up that have to do with actuarial science. So I'm going to buzz over to Lauren, who's going to chime in. So one of the myths that we have is it's really important and not stressful at all to take as many actuarial exams as a full-time student. Lauren, what do you think about that?
Hi, everybody. Excited to talk a little bit about AXI with all of you today. So thanks so much for all of these awesome questions. So for actuarial science, obviously you are like full-time students when you are preparing for these professional exams, and that is a lot of work, right? So I do want to highlight that we do have some specific courses that actually help prepare students for actuarial exams, and we really want students to be able to take time in those classes to help prepare for the exams. And we also know that preparing is a lot of work. So typically on average, we're looking for when students are looking for internships, it's 1 to 2 exams passed for internships. We're typically looking at about 3 to 4 exams passed for full-time job offers. But with that said, I work with students at all different paces. So I would say students are really going to be working at their own pace on passing those professional examinations. And that's something that you can continue to work with me on as your advisor. Also working with the actuarial club. I put a huge plug in for the AXI club as well. It's a great resource for students to make sure they feel prepared for AXI exams. Continuing to connect with faculty and our career coaches as well to make sure that you're on the right path. And every path is going to be different, right? Everyone's going to have a little bit of a different pace. The other thing that I would make note of is that there was a question about pairing actuarial science with other majors. And I just will reiterate what some of the other students have said already today in the session is that it really is all individualized for the student and really on your interests and if you would want to pursue a double major, but by no means is that required. When I work with students, I really have some critical conversations with them about their interests, and if there are other programs in the School of Business or outside of the School of Business that they're interested in, that's where we kind of start those conversations. So connect with our teams and appointments to help you kind of create that individualized path for you. Thanks,
Fantastic.
Caitlin.
Thanks, Lauren. So that goes perfectly into another myth we have, which is upper class students are the best resources for learning about my major, what jobs are available, and the best steps to take. I would love to hear from Ben on this.
Oh boy, that's a tough one. I wouldn't say like they're the number one best resource, but I would say they're like a very, very valuable resource because they've all like walked the path that you're going to take. So they, for example, like as a senior now, I know what companies will probably hire a sophomore for an internship, whereas you might not because you're a little younger than me. And they also like kind of will know like what pairs of majors work well for targeting X companies, have like the steps to get certain jobs. But I also would say like tap the BBA. The career coaches talk to employers like all the time, and you want to be like in their ears, and they can also like set up some introductions that like the average senior or upper class just won't have. So I'd say like utilize both. And if you use both, I think you'll put yourself in a pretty good spot for recruiting.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. And Ben is one of our career peers, so you can also reach out to him. Similarly, I'd love to hear from an academic peer. John, do you want to jump in and give us some thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think everything Ben said was perfect. Not too much to add there. But yeah, I would say don't be intimidated to reach out to upperclassmen, because I know that was a part for me when I was a freshman and sophomore, was that I was afraid to reach out to them. But yeah, everyone's friendly, more than willing to help.
Fantastic. Thank you both. So this was a question that came from the audience that, Lauren, I'm going to direct your way. There are certain majors that are more math heavy, like finance. And I'd love for you to talk to us a little bit about the quantitative and the qualitative majors, specifically your experience.
Yeah, so I would say finance, real estate, accounting, like are definitely going to have more of a math component than maybe some of the other ones. But, and I guess Nicole and kind of Grace touched on this too, but I think business is moving into a very data heavy area where every major you have now is basically going to involve numbers. But I think a lot of the things that you're doing with numbers aren't going to be like calculus or math, especially not in, I think, a lot of instances, because computers can do all of that. It's more learning the analytics, problem solving aspects, and just how to look at those numbers rather than like hardcore computing them.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren. So next question, if I am not a direct admit business student or I don't get admitted at all, I won't get a job in business, which I think this is a myth on a lot of pre-business students' minds right now as we prepare for the application. Olivia, do you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, of course. I can talk a little bit about this one. So me personally, I was a pre-business student and I was definitely worried about the same thing, that if I didn't get into the business school, I could never do business like in my future career. But I definitely agree with Caitlin that that is a myth. I did a lot of parallel planning when I was kind of preparing for the worst just in case I didn't get accepted into the business school. And I personally decided on retailing and consumer behavior. That's in the School of Human Ecology. And I decided on that one because it was still very like marketing related. However, there's tons of other majors out there that like can lead you back into business, like personal finance, econ, math, communications. Honestly, your major doesn't like set you into whatever career you're going to be taking in the future. It just kind of helps you a little bit along the way, if that makes sense.
That was perfect, Olivia. Thank you. So I know that there's still some questions pending in the chat box. We are going to go to our final question. And then at the end, I will put up a slide that shows you kind of some places for resources, as well. If you finish the post survey, which the link will be in the final slide, we will send you an email with all of the answers that our students gave tonight on the panel. And then if you have any other questions, we've been capturing them, we'll also include those. So we'll be sure to get all of your questions answered. So last question for everyone on the panel. What is the best advice that you could give to a student who truly has no idea what they want to do for a career or academic pursuits? And I'll give you a second to think about it, and then we're going to start with Nicole.
That's a super great question. The one piece of advice I would give to a student who has absolutely no idea where to go with their career or their major, honestly, I'd recommend you talk to career advising and the career coaches. They really helped me, especially Caitlin, kind of shape where I was going to go with my career. And kind of based on my personality and through talking with them, I was able to really understand what I wanted out of my career and the kind of job I wanted and how majors would apply to that. Through all the resources within the business school, you can really get a chance to explore all the majors and get a really good understanding of what you want to do with your life.
Thank you. Lauren, what do you think?
Yeah, I think my best piece of advice, obviously career advisors are great people to talk to. Also, if you go to things like the career fair, even if you're not sure what to do, just making connections with people at the career fair can open you up to conversations with them so you understand what that career involves. So I know for a lot of the majors, people have said the coursework isn't really what you're going to be doing on a day-to-day basis. So making those connections with professionals in the real world right now can help you understand more what you'd be doing in the job.
Awesome. John, what about you?
Yeah, I've definitely been in that position. Something that I try to follow is find something that you enjoy or like learning about. Look at the companies that make money from that sort of topic. Look at what your strengths are. Try to figure out where you would fit in that, like in a role or a position, and then just head in that direction. Because everything's going to be changing all the time, your interest, but that's just something to follow.
Fantastic. Ben, what do you think?
That's a tough one. I think assuming in general you want to do something business, because it's a little tougher if you're considering like med school or something else, but let's assume business. I think some of the career tests we have on the website are really, really good because they'll help like pin down what you might want to do. I'd say from like my personal experience, try to pick up what you're like subtly getting interested in. So for me, I found myself paying attention to like markets-based news, and I was like, ooh, I would have no problem like doing that every day for work. Talking to your career coaches, and then I would say even like network, like talk to people in like all different jobs. They will not mind taking your call, and you're gonna be like, oh, like that sounds super interesting, or like that I would hate doing it every day of my life. That would be terrible. And I think that'll really help you like narrow down quickly what you want to do.
Awesome. And Olivia.
Yeah, kind of similar to what Ben was saying. Like my personal example is when I was still a pre-nursing student, I started getting involved in like marketing and social media work like within my actual job. And I kind of like had to take a step back and realize like, oh, I'm way more interested in that than I ever was in nursing. So that kind of helped me to like push over into business. But I would just say like don't be afraid to ask lots of questions and really like dive into what you're interested in, because it will probably benefit you in the long run. And like join the clubs, reach out to peers and the advisors, and like take those classes that sound interesting, because like later on you can probably connect them to a major or career that like you'll love for the long run.
Fantastic. And Grace, do you want to round us out?
Yes, and I'm actually going to cheat and say two things. So, first of all, I would say that all experience is good experience. If you get an internship and you hate it, that information is just as valuable as if you get an internship and you absolutely love it. I think that putting yourself out there and taking opportunities that might be outside your comfort zone or you're a little skeptical about, well, it's very intimidating, is how I've gained some of my best professional experiences and connections. And second, I would say use our network. I'm not kidding when I say UW has literally the best alumni and resources in the world. So reaching out through LinkedIn, through the career and peer advisors like they've messaged, I'm assure you that the large majority of them will always be more than willing to talk to you, give you advice, insights, let you know like what their role is, and also definitely help you open some doors down the road.
That's fantastic. Well, I just want to give a huge shout out to our entire panel. You all are amazing and great examples of ways to explore different majors, different careers. So thank you to Nicole, Olivia, John, Grace, Ben, and Lauren. You all are wonderful. I'm going to put up one final slide here. Give me a second while I share my screen. And then also while I make it full screen for you all so you can see it. So a couple final steps for everyone to consider. We super encourage everyone, there we go. We super encourage everyone to fill out our post survey. That is where we will be sending you a custom email with all of the answers to the questions that you heard today. That is the square QR code in the bottom left-hand side of this very busy document. A couple next steps that you could also think about. We do have an exploration checklist for academic. Great tool if you want to pull that up and kind of go through some things that you're thinking about. This is also a great time to consider meeting with an academic peer to talk through some of those explorations. So shout out to Olivia and John, who are two of our academic peers. We also encourage you to visit the Virtual Career Engagement Studio, which is that website right there. This is full of resources, YouTube videos, blog posts, all sorts of things that could really just keep you busy for hours. The next thing is to read the exploration blog. We just created this earlier this semester. It goes through every single major, kind of talks you through some things that you could expect if you really were interested in those areas. The next thing is consider meeting with an academic or career peer to keep the conversation going. So another shout out to our career peer, Ben, and as well our other students are students who work within the School of Business as well. So really connecting with any of our panelists would be a great move on your part. We will include their LinkedIns in the email that we send you so you can connect professionally that way. And then the last thing that we encourage, which several of our panelists mentioned, is just attending more events to explore different areas of careers or academics. So for example, the College of Letters and Science is hosting a business for non-business majors panel up here pretty soon. Now, I know most of you are probably business students, but this is a great event to still go to understand different industries. So with that, we are going to end a couple minutes early. If you do have questions, please drop them in the chat or email any of our panelists or myself, and we will send you a follow-up email. Last plug, please take the post survey. Thank you all.